if you love doing it, continue doing it. And also constantly, I'd say, branch out when it comes to the art field, because there's so many things to do in the art field. There's like so many things that you could learn. So I definitely say, especially in college, just use everything to your advantage. Like take as many courses in the creative fields as possible. If there's something that's interesting to you or that's interested you, take it. Like take risks. Don't be scared if a piece seems daunting to you because it's too big, or maybe you're using a new color palette and you don't know how to go about it. Just do it, even if it might not be.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Art. I'm your host, Randy Bentic, and I'm with my guest today, Amor Ferguson. She's a graduate of the Bishop Michael Eldon School. Welcome, Amor.
Hello.
She would have graduated with AP English, Literature, Physics, Art, Computer Studies, AP Calculus, Physical Education, AP Psychology, Spanish, Biology, and Commerce. She would have won the Best Performing Award at the BGCSE examination in Fine Arts in 2016. She's a graduate of the Liberty College with a BA in Studio and Digital Art and Graphic Design pending. She would describe herself as a traditional painter, digital artist. Welcome to Conversations in Art.
Yay, thank you for having me.
So how have you been?
I've been good. Life is great,
Okay. So what have you been up to since the situation with the pandemic?
Right now, I'm still waiting for my degree program to switch over to graphic design, but I've been working right now, trying to get some money while I'm waiting for things to settle down, and then also working on other art pieces, trying to situate myself online, like with my art and things like that.
So what are some of the experiences that you have had since you have gone to college? What would you have learned from your experiences in high school that you would have taken to college that would have been beneficial to you in that transition period?
Boy. I feel like the social and even like academic life in high school and college is very different. I also feel like my high school and college life were drastically different, just in the sense that there's a lot more things that you can do. There's a lot of programs that you can partake in, which I think is, in comparison to high school, I feel like there's definitely a lot more available to you. But experiences, I feel like my experience in college was pretty good in terms of, well, my college programs were very different from the things that I studied in high school, and I had a lot more in-depth studying with the subjects in art. So I feel like I definitely learned a lot more in that aspect, because you learn like basic fundamentals in high school, but then when you go to college, it's like you can do more things in regard to like pottery, or you can do more things in sculpting, or you can combine like photography and graphic design and just like learn a lot more. So you're constantly gaining more information.
And having gone there, what are some of the exposures and experiences that you would have gotten that would give you first perspective in art that you think that you can use in a different way?
Well, experiences. Okay. I feel a lot of my experiences dealt with a lot of social things. I met a lot of people, and I learned a lot of different cultures from interacting with different people, and also learning different perspectives of life by interacting with other people. I feel like observing the life that my friends and my peers live can definitely help you with getting more inspiration for things that you want to create. So definitely just being exposed to different cultures, not even just like from going from the Bahamas to America, but interacting with other students from Africa or China or Korea, and like gaining more insight from their perspectives. I think it definitely helps when you're trying to create new things or even for projects. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it definitely helps in things like that.
And what is the classroom or the lecture room experiences has been like in terms of how information is disseminated in those situations? And what kind of transition you would have had to make from the traditional high school classroom environment and the teachers more or less doing the chalk and talk, and then you get into the lecture room, and then it's a whole different thing. And then more specifically, in your case, it's going to be studio because, of course, you don't have the opportunity to deal with studios in high school, but in university, of course, you have the studio environment. How did that transition, and what are some of the experiences you would have gathered from that?
The general classes, like the general subjects, the classrooms are a lot bigger. So I was used to classrooms with like 20 or 30 students, but one of my first classes had like 200 plus students,
Wow.
and they'd have speakers because, you know, the room is very large and you can't hear if they didn't have microphones. So just being surrounded by so many different people, and it's like sometimes in high school, you know, especially in smaller classes, you kind of have this, I wouldn't say like connection, but you definitely are able, it's easier to talk to your teachers because there's less students they have to deal with. But in that situation, there's so many people that are around you, and there's so many people that these professors have to interact with. But in regards to the studio and art classes, those classes were a lot smaller than the general subjects, and the professors are very uh, nice. I feel like they were very nice, and they were very
Okay.
knowledgeable on the subjects that they were teaching. So they would often come around the classrooms and check your work and give you critiques or
Mm.
ask you like what's your plan with this art piece, or just giving you advice on maybe this certain aspect doesn't look right because maybe the lighting is off, or maybe you know the anatomy is off. So with the art classes, I felt like in comparison to general subjects, they were a lot more personal,
Mhm.
and the art teachers tended to be they were very interesting people. I actually really like my art professors a lot.
Okay. And what about the change in terms of mediums that you would have been exposed to? What are some of the mediums that you would have been exposed to there that you didn't get an opportunity to work with in high school on a very extensive basis?
Um, one, I've only done one semester of the subject because it was part of my degree program, but
Mm.
I did one semester of graphic design,
Mm.
and that was a completely new experience for me because I'm not really used to the whole vectors and the whole programs using Adobe software. It's something that was very new to me.
Mhm.
There also are programs where you can do like sculpting and pottery and ceramics, but I never got the chance to do those subjects before I came back home. But they were very interesting, and you can see like when you're walking in the hallways in the art building, you could see like the students' work just on like in the hallways or their sculptures in the windows, and they were always displayed, and they looked like really interesting and really nice.
Mm. Okay. So in terms of some of the softwares that you would have used, I know you mentioned Adobe. What are some of the other softwares that you would have been exposed to? Not just for graphic design, but in terms of some of the work that you've been doing for your digital stuff. What are some of the software you've been using?
Mm. It depends on if I'm using my computer or my iPad.
Mhm.
For my iPad, I use Procreate. It's only like $10, and then you could just use everything, or if you want to download brushes and stuff. It's more convenient, but my favorite is Clip Studio Paint.
Okay.
But you can download that on your mobile as well, but I think it's better on your computer. And you can do like comics or animations, and it's a really good software for like basically anything that you want, like art related.
Because I know I have a final year student at the moment who is doing a lot of the digital stuff, and I think this is something that she would find very interesting. That's one of the reasons why I would have ask that question. But what are some of the opportunities that you have when you would have completed your line of study? What are some of the opportunities for further studies and for employment that you have in your area of study?
I'm still trying to transfer with my program. Currently, there are a lot of opportunities right now for me with like freelance stuff, and I'm trying to work predominantly online. So right now, I'm just trying to. I feel like complete my portfolio. I'm still currently working on that. So my whole art page right now is just an amalgamation of my works, so that like basically my art page would be my portfolio. Mm-hmm. So like being able to do freelance things or illustrations for other people. I'm planning on creating a comic. That's still like in the works right now, but basically for me personally, my plan is just to be able to do my own art like individually, create a platform for myself, and then be able to like make shops with my art prints, or even just again with my comic doing things like that. So that's for me personally.
Okay, and is that going to be a US based, or are you going to bring that back to the Bahamas?
It's going to be more like globally, because if you're doing a lot of things online, I feel like there's a bigger reach because anyone in the world can see your stuff. So, but I still do want to kind of make connections with artists from back home, from here, and then also make connections with artists like globally, worldwide.
So one student is asking, what is the cost for Clip Studio Paint program? If you have to pay for it, then what's the cost?
Okay, I think because it depends if you want the first level or the second level. I think the first level would be $50, but if you want the full package for like unlimited seconds for animation, or like just more things that you can do in the program, I think that would be around 180, but I could be wrong. I think the price I paid for the full was 180, but it could have changed. I'm not sure right now, but around 50, 180.
So I've been looking at some of the work that you have sent me, and we're going to go through them, and I want you to share your thoughts on what are some of the thinking process that you would have had as you went through those different pieces. So I'm going to put them up on the screen, and then as I go through, you're going to talk a little bit about the pieces and what would have been the influence and what was the message you were striving to send to the viewing public. So this is the first one.
Oh yeah. That's actually one of my character designs. Again, I've mentioned about working on a webcomic. I was just working on different art styles, but he's going to be one of the main characters in my webcomic. His name is Kitsune. It was supposed to be a placeholder name, but in the end, okay, I never changed it. So his name is just Kitsune now. But okay, yeah.
And this one?
Oh, that piece is a part of, I think I sent you this set that kind of looks similar. That was for one of my freshman projects for my design class. I can't remember what the theme of that project was, but I basically just drew my friends digitally with things that kind of represented them, or like things I thought kind of matched their personalities. I think, oh yeah, I drew the moon because she really loves the moon. So I drew like the moon behind her. And I wrote their names because I think the majority of them are Chinese. So I wrote their names with the Chinese characters. They helped me with that because I I only know a few Chinese words.
And that one?
Okay. That one, I drew that, I think that was also around my freshman year. I kind of wanted to just portray the emotion of like when your head is just cluttered, and you just can't focus on anything else. It's like this emotion of pain, emotion of confusion, frustration, and I wanted to color the heart in the middle, kind of bleeding out, basically like conveying like hurt in your heart, hurt in your soul, and it kind of just bubbles over into this confusion going on in your head, which would be uh, conveyed through the very messy lines. I love using a lot of messy lines in some of my older traditional works, but yeah, ooh, that one also was around the same time as the last one. A lot of his paintings back then were very solemn and sad. I think for this one, I kind of used a lot of earthy, like earth with the green and then water. The previous piece is just very sad, very melancholic, very solemn. That's basically what I was trying to get across. Oh yeah, there's no like background or overlying message for this one. I just he's a celebrity I really like. His name is Kim Tae-hyung, and that's one of his pictures he took. I just wanted to recreate it for one of my classroom sketches from my design class. So yeah, I think I drew a lot of pictures of Tae-hyung actually, and that's also another picture of Tae-hyung. Yeah, I used a lot of mechanical pencils for those, at least for the sketching aspect of it. And for the shading, I used mechanical pencil, but I used more graphite for the back just to get that contrast. And
Some of the technical things that you would have learned that would have taken your graphic drawing and those traditional drawing to another level. What are some of the things that you would have learned in university that have really assisted you to really take your drawing to a different?
it's just it's still the basic things that I remember you teaching us in high school, basically, like using your pencil, kind of getting it from a distance, stretching your arm out so you can be able to get the accurate, like,
Proportion.
yeah, proportions in your artwork. But for something like that's for more if you have a model in the class or in front of you, he would. I remember my professor would recommend um, taking your pictures yourself or actually getting a model in front of you. But for these portraits, I just kind of looked at pictures that were online because obviously Taehyung is not going to be in front of me for me to draw this one. But basically, technically, I basically start just by looking at the proportions. With stuff like this, I tend to eyeball a lot of it. If it's just for my personal sketches. So I normally just start everything off with a circle for the head. You get your middle line, you get your eye line, and then just basically sketch what you see. Um, of course, you're going to be like erasing things if it might look off for a bit. But for the technical aspect, at least with this personal one, yeah, it's just basically getting your skeletons in there with the circles, with the lines, and then slowly adding the general outline of things. And then I tend to just work my way from up down when it comes to shading. And just to make sure that your artwork doesn't smudge, I tend to use like paper towels or something to put underneath your hand so you don't like smudge the graphite pencil all over the page. Um, Oh, and for this one, when I was done with it, I can't remember what the thing is called, but you spray on top of it just to
Oh,
make
the
sure that it
fixative.
doesn't. Yeah, just to make sure it doesn't smudge when you're done.
Mhm.
Because I realized after doing a few sketches that the pencil was coming onto the other page of the book when I closed it, and it was just getting really messy. So I had to spray over on top of it.
Okay. You mentioned in university, your professors would encourage you to take pictures in some instances. Now, in the art school, what we do at Burroughs, we do a lot of live drawing, and we seldom use photograph unless it's really a situation where you don't have anything else. how much live drawing experiences have you been exposed to, and is a part of the curriculum in terms of your studio studies?
For life drawings, it depends on the project. I know for my oil painting classes, we had life drawings for a few of them, but in some instances where you're doing another project, maybe it has to be like more expressive with different themes or something like that. Maybe you might want to get reference photos or reference pictures. So I remember for our portrait paintings, we had to take pictures of our friends because like it's not going to be done in class. So for a lot of my classes, at least, we only had a few live models, but I don't have a lot of experience with with a lot of live models, at least for the courses that I took.
This one is pretty interesting to me. Is this watercolor, or is
Yeah,
this
it
medium?
is.
It
It's
is. Okay.
the watercolor. This one
Okay.
was for also for my design class. I can't remember what the project was for this one again, but this was in my freshman year. I got a reference photo because I think this is like a train station in Japan. I really love the train stations in Japan. So this is more kind of like watercolor of that. I think the original, it had a lot of green in it, but I didn't want it to be too green, so I ended up changing the color of the train to be blue instead. But yeah, I don't have a lot of experience with watercolor, so I was kind of intimidated to do this one. But I like the way how it ended up turning out. Ah, this one. This one was for my sophomore. I think it was sophomore. I think it was my sophomore oil painting class. This is actually the first oil portrait I've ever done. I'm not very experienced in oil paints. Um, but the one thing I learned from this class is basically if you have warm light, you need cool shadows. And if you have cool light, you have warm shadows. He basically drilled that in our heads when we were doing this project. So every time I draw a colored piece, the only thing that goes through my head is warm light, cool light, warm shadow. But yeah, this is one of my friends. I took a picture of her having in the sunlight because we needed very drastic shadows for this one, just so we can get a good differentiation between like light and shadows in the piece. Ah, this one I drew like 2 days ago. So for Instagram right now, there's something called like Magictober or like Inktober, and I've been doing a lot of digital right now, but for this month, I'm trying to challenge myself to go back to drawing a lot of things traditionally. So this one is just basically the theme for that day was unicorn. So I took a picture of a horse and I put a horn on it. And then I wanted to kind of have this effect where the flame is coming out from the point where the pen tip meets the drawing. So it's kind of like an explosion of fire, and then you have the unicorn in the middle. Very magical piece. This is another drawing of Kim Tae-hyun. Uh, this one started, of course, with like a mechanical pencil sketch, and then I just kind of filled it in with ink. I like doing a lot of ink shading because I love hatching and cross hatching a shading. So I just love scratching lines on the paper. So that one is a blue ballpoint pen, and yeah, it's just something like quick. That is I think that's my last digital painting I did before I started doing more ink stuff. Uh, this one was actually, I just drew another person's character, but I changed the pose and everything. When it comes to digital painting, I like to make my colors really desaturated. I don't like it to be too bright on your eyes, so a lot of my digital stuff ends up looking really melancholic, even if the colors are something like yellow or pink or a baby blue. It still ends up looking a little bit sad. um, but for this piece, the hair was very difficult for me, but I ended up liking the way how the position of like the wind ended up coming in this one. And this one, there's two variations of that one with the background and one without the background. Personally, I I kind of favor the one without the background most, just because of the simplicity in it. Um, but this one is, I think it was for a draw this in your style, where you would take someone's character and then just basically draw it however you want to. I tend to use the same brushes for all of my digital pieces, just varying the opacity and the sizes of it. But it's basically just like the same three brushes in rotation. Um, and yeah, there's one with harsh lighting and one without, but I don't know if I sent you that one. Oh yeah, that's the one with the background in it. And also with the light patches. Yeah, it's just like a sunflower feel. And this one is more just experimenting with different brushes. Um, those are actually a different rendition, like style rendition of my webcomic characters. So I went from one style to the next, just trying to see what fit the theme that I wanted to go for. But this one, I got inspired by one of my favorite artists actually that I love. Her name is Wuma. That's her art alias, and oh my gosh, I don't even know if I could send her Instagram page. I would love to because I absolutely love her art. But the way how she draws characters, she draws the eyes very large and like very sharp, and but her pen style is very messy, which I also very like. I like a lot, but I just took the sharpness and kind of wanted to restylize my characters. So this was just like an experiment thing. This is one of my Animal Crossing characters. Her name is Tia, and she's so cute. So this is like cell shading and just trying out different blend modes in Procreate to get the glow on her hair. But yeah.
So these digital ones that you have there, are they different software or one particular software that you would have used?
All of them are in Procreate, but I just use different brushes depending on what time frame I drew them in. These ones are my earlier pieces, so I basically used a lot of, I think it's called a G pen, just for bold line arts and stuff like that. But as time went on, I ended up going for a more softer feel, and I just kind of took away the line art completely. But all of it's in Procreate. This is a fan art I did, combining two of the anime shows that I watch. It's just basically um, anime style. So I took a reference picture, basically combining um, one of the sword movements, and then his name is Nishinoya, and he's from Haikyuu, but I just combined it with another character from another anime show. And this one was actually really fun because I was just experimenting with the add and lighting tools to get the glow on the lightning bolts. But this is like just another experimenting on styles and stuff. And this is another character design for my webcomic. I was trying to see like, basically I wanted to be a spider lady, but I was trying to wonder, oh, what kind of feel do I want? I feel like the left side is a little bit more, I wouldn't say dangerous, but I love the colors more on the right. It kind of gives a Studio Ghibli feel to it. Um, So I actually really like the right side a lot more than the left. And this is another character design for my webcomic. This one, just experimenting again with pen textures on Procreate. And I wrote down the brushes I used just so I wouldn't forget the textures for them. But this is just experimenting what kind of outfits and masks I wanted for him to have for his character design. So yeah, his name is Nyx, and this is basically just Kitsune again. But before I settled on having him have white hair, I was like, maybe I should have him have orange hair. But in the end, I ended up choosing white and blue. I might change his outfit actually, because after experimenting more with digital art, I feel like I've gotten a little bit more comfortable with Procreate. So I might use more textures and different brushes just to change his outfit. But yeah, and then I settled for the one on the far right.
So what is the learning curve like for learning to utilize some of these softwares that you're using? For example, Procreate. Of the ones that you're using, which one is the simpler one?
Procreate. And it's more convenient because you could just download it and then on your phone or on your iPad and carry it with you anywhere. I mean, you can do that for Clip Studio Paint too, but I prefer Clip Studio Paint on the computer than on your iPad. I'd say Clip Studio Paint is definitely more difficult to get used to, just because depending on what you're doing, you'd have a completely different setup. So if you're doing animation, there's a completely different setup and layout on the software in comparison to if you're doing like illustrations, then it's a completely different setup. But for Procreate, even if you do animations on Procreate, it's still relatively easy, but you're not able to do as much as on Procreate as on Clip Studio Paint. So it's more complex, but you could do more. Or for Procreate, it's simpler, but you can do a little bit less. It's just pros and cons, basically. And this is another character design. These are just all of my character designs from my webcomic. Her name is Kimi, and she's supposed to be like the more softer girl in the group. She's actually based off of one of my friends from college. So she kind of looks a lot similar to her. But yeah,
Okay.
I just used her as a reference. And this is another character design. Her name is Sacha, and yeah, she's supposed to be the main character. These are some sketches I did for my painting class. My professor would have recommended, before we actually chose a specific piece to use, he would ask us to basically make thumbnails or to do at least 3 different sketches of what you would want for the theme. And then he would like give you, oh, which one he likes, the most, but you're free to pick whichever one you want. This one was one of them. I think I did 3 for these ones, but this one was one of them. I forgot what a theme was. Each of our projects has a theme, but I can't remember what the theme was for this. But it's just basically kind of a mystical, magical kind of world with the tree creatures walking down the street. And this is basically, I think this was the last one I did for this, but it's just basically the same tree creatures. I think all of these sketches were part of the same world that I was imagining, but just in different areas. So this is more like a bar, restaurant kind of area. For this one, I took a picture of my friend sitting down near the island of the kitchen in our apartment, and I just drew what I saw around her to make that little magical bar area. But it's the same with tree creatures, kind of human entering into another world. And that's the first one I did for the set. It's basically the same worlds, but instead of telling a story kind of through the setting, it's more of just like an amalgamation, having the world, the entire city in the back and just the main girl in the center. It kind of reminds me of just a poster or something, just like a regular poster. But that was the kind of feeling I was going for. This is part of the other set I was telling you about. I think the other drawings ahead of this one would be in the same set, but this one is just drawing my friends in different poses, using airbrushing to kind of have that gradient from light to dark in certain areas. And then I can't remember what brush tool this is. I think it was a G pen on Procreate to kind of get that cell shading going with the shadows on the folds of her clothes. And then to kind of soften it up, you'd use, I think it's pronounced Gaussian or Gaussian, the Gaussian blend to kind of soften up the lines when you're done with them. But she has a very fiery personality, so I did some fireballs in it. And it's from the same set, same airbrushing and cell shading techniques. This is actually the sister of one of my friends, and I just took a reference photo from her. Her and her brother has the same red color scheme in the background. She just has squares and he has a circle, but it's still supposed to show that kind of sibling connectivity they have going on with their character design. But this is a recent one. So this is a fan art of the song I really like from BTS. Taehyung, the guy I drew previously digitally, is a part of this group, but this is a different one. His name is Jungkook, and he starts off the music video. So I just took some aspects that I like from the music video and kind of had this color scheme that just blended really well. Because the color scheme in the music video, the color palette was actually really, really good. So I just took the color palette that they had there and just basically drew him in a different style and a different pose. And that's part of the other set. She likes the movie Ponyo, which is a Studio Ghibli movie with like fish, and I think the city was flooded or something like that. It's been a while since I watched that movie, but I wanted to kind of have this magical aspect with fish, the fish kind of flying around her.
I've been looking at some of your compositions. Is there a special subject area in your classes that deals with composition and how you go about dealing with the way you put together things on the surface?
I wouldn't say that there's a specific class for that. If there is, then I never took it. But for compositions, I feel like it's just something that your individual professor would just kind of advise you on. I don't know if it's like a specific thing, but yeah, I just show my professors what the sketches are and then just see what they have to say about it. But I tend to try to keep things balanced, uh, either like in the center. A lot of my compositions are like center based, but yeah. And this is another recent digital one. This is like another draw this in your style, like taking another person's character and just drawing it how you normally would. It's a very bunny theme, so I just ended up drawing realistic bunnies around her. This one, I think it was the first time I tried drawing faces and hair this way, because before I did things a little bit more simplistically, but still keeping the soft aspect in it. But this one was kind of experimental with the color schemes and things like that. So I just, with pieces like this, you don't want to branch your colors too much, because if you're not well skilled in using colors, it could look very messy if you just like grab a bunch of colors and then just splatter them on on the painting on the page. So normally I just color pick maybe like 4 or 5 colors and just kind of use those same colors in the same piece. So I would use pink in the blue just to kind of balance things out, and then blue in the pink hair just to kind of balance the entire piece out. So yeah, just color picking and then placing the other colors just to kind of balance out the piece. And this is a recent ink for Magictober again. The theme for this one was Lilith. So I kind of went for a little bit more messy with the line art, kind of doubling over with the wings and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted to have like angel theme, and then you have the little horns in there. This one, I hadn't done inking in a long time when I did this one, so I was a little bit nervous to start inking it, which I think is pretty evident because I didn't completely use a lot of contrast with the background. But I think as I'm inking, I'm getting a lot more confident with what I'm doing. But this one, I was a little bit nervous to ink it. But yeah, it's just Faber-Castell. I think that's the brand name. I love those ink pens. They're really good. This one is actually for another draw this challenge thing. This one, for these sorts of digital pieces, I like to name them. So a lot of them have like text somewhere on the piece just to kind of describe the main focus of it. So one of them kind of represents like ice and the other represents earth. So I wanted to have them in this kind of globe with the outside having snowflakes or blue for the ice, and then the inside kind of having a more earthy tone and kind of having, it kind of looks like rocks, but there's like a specific word for this kind of texture. I can't remember what it is, but basically, again, like using a very limited color scheme just so that it kind of blends in a lot better. So I use blue and orange and just kind of stuck with the blue and orange just so it blended a lot better with this one. This is the brother.
This is the brother, yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, this is the brother. So he's actually the first one I drew. This one is one of the two. When I finally started getting comfortable with doing digital art, it took me a long time to find my footing. This is like this one, and I think I sent you the other one, was when I started to become more comfortable. But I like to have my pieces look, again, very muted, very desaturated. So even if the subject in the piece is very cute, you have like a cute little girl and her cute little plushies, but just the way how you use the colors in it, it makes it a little bit more melancholic, a little bit more sad. And even with the positioning of the girl kind of standing over the plushie that's ripped open, it is cute, but it also has this kind of underlying tone that, oh, it's not completely something that's like happy or something that's good, quotation marks. But I kept a lot of the sketch lines in this one just to continue on with the messy feel that I wanted to go for. And I kept some of the sketch lines on the outline with the...
Well, that's the last piece in the collection, and I want to thank you for taking the time to share your experiences and talk about your work with us. There are some questions as we wrap up that some persons want to ask, and I'm going to read them to you, and then you're going to provide the answers. The first one is, who inspired you to do digital art?
Basically, a lot of the mediums that I watch are animated, and you need to be able to do things digitally nowadays in order to get into that work environment. But I follow a lot of people on Instagram who did digital art and who still do a lot of digital art. And I thought that the things that you could do on digital art it's just things that you just can't do traditionally with traditional art. So I wanted to experiment. But who inspired me? I have 3 artists that I really love on Instagram. First one is Wuma. I think I already mentioned her before. The second one, her name is Yogisya. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but Yogisya, Yogisya. And a lot of my digital artwork now is heavily inspired by them because their fabric detail and hair detail is just so amazing. And then my third one is Satomi Fun, also on Instagram. A lot of Japanese artists, I feel, kind of inspired me to do a lot of digital stuff because I watch a lot of anime and then I ended up following a lot of Japanese artists on Instagram. So I wanted to try something new.
The second question is, who pushed you into the art field? Who would have inspired you or caused you to, encourage you to take up art?
Uh, I just feel everyone around me, kind of like even you, Mr. Pensick, you were very encouraging in high school, and my parents were very uh, supportive of my hobbies because I always drew a lot, even ever since like kindergarten. From since I could hold a pencil, I was just drawing stuff. So I drew from like a young age, and the people around me were just like, "Oh, you can draw so well," and basically just encouraging me. And I love doing it. Like I love drawing. I love doing art. I love experimenting, and I feel like it's one of the things that I'm kind of good at. So I just want to continue experimenting with that. And with my family and my peers and teachers, like we're always encouraging me and pushing me. So it's just something that I feel if I'm not doing art, it's like, what else am I going to do? I just feel like it's a thing that I love the most.
And the final question is, how long does it take you to complete one of your anime drawings?
It depends. I stretch them out over the course of a few days. So I might do the sketch for one day and then rest and not focus on it. And then I do the line art on another day and then do the color on another day. I'd say it takes me a couple of hours if you combine the times together, especially depending on the complexity. But since I stretch out my drawings um, over time, I'd say a couple of days, just overall. I think.
So now that you would have done much of what you would have wanted, where do you go from here in terms of furthering your education and other projects and things that you wish to achieve in the field of art?
Well, again, now I'm just waiting on for the whole process to go through so I can start learning graphic design. I'm hoping to learn some things when it comes to experimenting on Adobe software because I don't know anything about Adobe software right now. So just branching out and learning the skill when it comes to graphic design because I feel like it's something completely different from studio art and it's very daunting, but it's something new. So I'm going to learn that and just basically cementing myself, trying to increase my platform online. I want to experiment with my art style more and also do more animations. I've done a few animations, like just sketches trying to figure out, body proportions and anatomy and timing when it comes to animations and things like that. But I've started doing a few more animation sketches on Procreate and I'm planning on moving it over to Clip Studio Paint when I work on a bigger project. But for right now, it's just having an art platform, working on my webcomic, working on animation, and then studying graphic design when that whole process is finished.
And what would be the final advice you would leave for those young artists and art students who are in art school now and who would wish to go on to university? What would you say to them as a form of encouragement as they continue their studies?
From encouragement. Well, basically, if you love doing it, continue doing it, and also constantly, I'd say branch out when it comes to the art field because there's so many things to do in the art field. Like, have painting and drawing, but you also have photography, you also have pottery. There's like so many things that you could learn. So I definitely say, especially in college, just use everything to your advantage. Like take as many courses in the creative fields as possible. If there's something that's interesting to you or that's interested you, take it. Like take risks. Don't be scared if a piece seems daunting to you because it's too big or maybe you're using a new color palette and you don't know how to go about it. Just do it, even if it might not be like perfect right now. Everything takes time. Like when I first started, especially on digital art, my art did not look that great, but I never let it get to me. I never let it get to my head. I knew that I wanted to do it. So I just kept on pushing. I kept on experimenting. I kept on learning from other people, learning on YouTube. There's a lot of artists that you could watch on YouTube.
Well, I want to thank you for spending the time with us. I really appreciate it. And best of luck in all your future endeavors. And I'll
Thank
speak to you
you.
soon. When you would have completed that digital anime online, please let me know so that we can spend some more time talking about that and see how that goes from there. So thank you very much. Have a blessed
Okay.
day.
Thank you.
All right.
You too. Thank you
Bye-bye.
for having me. Bye bye.
Yes, good to see you. All right.
Good to see you too.